So people, what I'm going to explain, Tom used to live along here. I used to live up there around the corner of the balcony, and there was an older boy who was about 15 who lived there. So when I was at the age of 4, I used to play on the balcony, and I met Jason. Jason used to play with me along the balcony and down here. He was already abused and being groomed by Tom that lived here. So when I was playing out down here with Jason and he was watching me, little did our parents know that Tom was doing the grooming process. And at the same time, my mum became friends with Tom, and then Tom became trusted enough to babysit me and sometimes watch me. And even on a number of occasions I stayed over at his house and they just thought I was watching telly, films and going to sleep and I'll be okay. At the same time, my mum became friends with him and trusted him. They didn't have a clue what he was doing. And Tom used to take me to certain locations and he'd say to my mum, he's just popping shops, and he might go to a house, collect containers, drive them to the canal, throw them in the canal and then go to the shop, buy some sweets and then bring us back to Pownell Road. Or he might go to a friend's house, he might meet Sidney Crook, members of the Dirty Dozen, and various members of different paedophile rings in Hackney, like Pembury, Kingsmead, Kingsold, Haggerston, Scriven, Dalston, Homerton, all around that area. And what Tom and Joe, their connection was they went to all the paedophile rings and getting orders for children and women and even adults of what members of the elite and various paedophiles connected to institutions wanted in these big townhouses. This North London gangster used Tom and Joe as a go-between to all the paedophile rings, and then he would give them orders to meet this woman who was connected to all the institutions, who lived at Navarino Road. She used to stay at a house. I'm going to show you that on this clip. And they'll collect notes of what they wanted and how they wanted the houses set up. So that's how it all begun. So you got to understand, I lived up there, Jason lived there, the older kid used to play with me, bring me out to play down here. We used to wander over to Tom's and play in this front garden, and that's how the grooming process started. And along them lines as well, he became friends with my mum, and they thought he was a good neighbour and a trusted person, which little did they know, he was bringing me to all various locations, meeting all different paedophiles. And like I said, it'll be throwing containers in certain parts of the canal. That's how I knew where certain containers were chucked. He'd meet in certain people in certain townhouses. Like I've been with him when he met the man from Ministry of Defence over the back of Victoria Park. In certain houses where he met the members of the Dirty Dozen, and just loads of different meeting places, doing different things and different conversations. So that's how it started at the age of 4. So I hope that sums it up to people understand now how I was so young and how it all unravelled. And the woman that they used to meet to get the note for the elite, to let them know how they wanted their houses set up, I'm going to bring you now to a location where she used to stay. So all the authorities have to do is check who owned this property, and then they would know the connections to Tom and Joe through the North London gangster who used to connect them all to the paedophile rings. And then that's how all the connection was. So hi people, I'm on Navarino Road. So I was explaining in the last clip how it started, as quick as I can really, to sum it up, how the grooming process started so young and how Tom became my babysitter. And I'm highlighting how Tom and Joe, who used to be at the house on Pownell Road, that guy that became my babysitter, how they used to get orders by the North London gangster to meet this woman who used to give them notes for members of the elite of what they wanted in the house. These notes used to go down the chain to people like Sidney Crook and the Dirty Dozen and then they will have certain kids who will be passed on to Tom and Joe, who then will be delivered to some of these houses where the elite used to come. And the woman who they used to meet, who had all the friends in Oxford universities, embassies, military defence, she was in, it was rather this house here on the corner, or it was basically one of these corner ones. It was, if it weren't that one, it was that one, but I think it was that one, if not, well, one of these corner ones, basically, because you got to remember, I come here when I was like 5 and 6, so I learned one of these ones on the corners. And that woman that lived in these big houses, or used to stay in them big houses like that, used to give notes to Tom and Joe, and then Tom and Joe, by the orders of the North London gangster, used to pass the notes on to the paedophile rings like the Dirty Dozen and Sydney Crook and all individuals like that across North and East London. And then that's how they would get the children, and then the children would be passed up the chain. And another thing I want to highlight is that the North London gangster, he had all the big townhouses set up, and there was only Tom and Joe, their job was to dispose of all the bodies from the townhouse and clear up the houses once the elite was finished, and get rid of the human remains that was in these houses. And then they had another individual who solely was to stay in the house, to protect the house, and to always be at the house. And then a man and his son lived there. And then, yeah, Tom and Joe was the go-between to getting rid of all the human remains and the victims. And then, like I said, Tom and Joe, by the orders of the North London gangster, was given orders to meet that woman. I believe I know who she is. I've sort of named her at the end of my interview by John Cooper on YouTube. The John Cooper show is called A Survivor of a Child Grooming Gang, but I can articulate it a lot better now and put it across so people can get it in chronological order. And like I said, they're the sort of properties, the size houses that the elite, the man from Ministry Defence had another house. I know where he used to stay, over the back of Victoria Park, very similar property. That woman used to stay there. I know because I was in there with Tom once when they was talking, and she had to get us out of the house quick. She was like, oh, I've got powerful friends coming. Powerful friends, you need to get Jay out of the house before they come. So I clearly remember that conversation, and I remember meeting her on 2 other occasions where she passed notes of what sort of children they want. And one of the occasions she followed us up in a red car to a location, and then another time she was dressed up and she was on her way to a fancy dress, and then she was like, oh, you know what sort of friends I've got in powerful places, and then she gave them a note, and then she went. And then the third occasion was in that house there that I just showed you. So she was the go-between, that woman in that last house I just showed you, between Tom and Joe, to put in the orders for the elite. And her friends were like the Arab man from the Arab man from the Saudi Arabian embassy, people from Oxford University, people from the Ministry of Defence, and even high up, all the way up to royalty. And that's the truth, that is the gospel. I swear to tell the truth, that's the whole truth and nothing but. So I hope it makes it clear and you get a clearer picture of how the grooming process started and how I know so much. Thank you for watching, and look out for more clips.